Hi everyone, today we're getting ready for our workshop build, starting with the concrete base. It's going to measure 9.6 metres long by 3.3 metres wide, totalling just over 31 square metres, and will sit on the flat area we excavated last summer. We decided to move forward with the workshop project because we need a better place to store our tools and materials whilst we work to restore the church. As we were planning to get ready mixed concrete for the base of the workshop, we also ended up pouring the foundations for a retaining wall in the same area, which you'll see parts of throughout the video. First, we started off levelling the ground. You can't really tell from the camera angle, but the ground level is quite off, about 150mm. We used a Rotavator to loosen up the soil, and then the quad bike with the bucket attachment to move it all around. Once the ground was level, that night, using a laser, we marked out the height and size of the base. The next morning we started laying down multiple tons of MOT Type 1 gravel to create the sub-base, which is crucial for stability. Once we were content that we had a sufficient amount, we used a compactor to ensure it was solid and ready for the next layer, and so on until we reached the desired height. Next, we built the form to contain the concrete using 4x1 boards. You would normally use something a little thicker than this, but we had these left over from a previous project, and with a few extra stakes to support them, they worked absolutely fine. Using stakes, we ran a parallel string line next to the fence and placed additional ones along the string before boarding the first side. Before staking the second side, we needed to ensure that the corner would be at 90 degrees. The most accurate way with something of this size is to use the 3-4-5 rule. Given that this is the longest side, I first marked 4 metres from the corner. I could then attach the sideboard and mark 3 metres from the same corner. When the distance between those 2 points becomes 5 meters, we know the first corner is square. Once confirmed, we can secure the second board, making sure it is level, and move on to the remaining sides, ensuring that they run parallel with the first two. Before closing off the side, I used a leaf blower to get rid of all the fallen leaves, and then trimmed off the top of the stakes at a slight angle away from the form, making it easier to level the concrete in future. Finally, to confirm the form was square, we took a diagonal measurement from corner to confirm that they were equal. At this point, you might notice a change in the trees and the weather. We started this project in the winter, but then, well, you can check out our previous videos which explains the delay. Now that we're ready to resume, we went over the ground once more with the compactor, making sure it was firm, and moved on to cutting the rebar. After cutting the rebar panels to size, we added the layer of sand before compacting it again. This is to protect the damp-proof membrane from any sharp edges of the gravel below it. Once we rolled out the DPM, we cut it to size and made sure to tuck it into all the corners, being careful not to create any punctures along the way. The next step was to add some support into the slab to maximise strength and minimise the risk of shifting should any cracks form, which is common in larger slabs. There is the option of making relief cuts along the slab, which encourages any cracks to form along the weakest point, which would be the cuts that you make. But as this is only for my workshop, I'm happy to test it out and see if any do form and where. but with the robust support structure inside it, the risk of shifting is minimal. To do this, we added some rebar panels, which we cut down to size, leaving a space around the edge of the form, making sure not to puncture the DPM. To keep the rebar in the centre of the slab, we used 50mm plastic spacers to clip onto the bars, and this can be done before laying the panels down for ease. Once in place, we went along tying them all together so that they don't move when the concrete gets poured. The final bit of preparation I wanted to make for the pour to go as smoothly as possible was to build a good tamping beam with some handles and a form stop on each end. It only takes a few minutes to put together and makes the job of levelling a large slab of concrete much easier. Given the size, we went for a concrete truck that mixes on site. We needed about 4.5 cubic meters of concrete for the workshop base, plus extra for the wall foundation in the background. Unfortunately, due to the location of the workshop at the top of a hill, the truck wasn't going to be able to get to where we needed it. Luckily, one of our friends offered to help out with his tractor, saving us a lot of uphill wheelbarrowing. The concrete was poured directly into the tractor bucket down at the driveway, and then he brought it up the hill and tipped it into the form as I worked on spreading it all out. One of the advantages of this type of truck is that it mixes the batches on site, giving us plenty of working time. Each load is essentially a fresh batch of concrete, and when you're moving a lot of it around by yourself or with minimal people, it takes a lot of the time pressure off. As the tractor can only get to one side of the form, we use a wheelbarrow to move the majority of it to the far corner for less raking. Once the form was full, we started to tamp the concrete to level it off and bring any air pockets and moisture out and up to the surface. As the concrete started to cure, I used a bull float to smooth the surface and bring it closer to the final finish, and run an edging trowel around the perimeter to smooth it off. It was definitely a long day, and a few extra hands would have made it much easier, but we got it done. The following day, we carefully removed the form and gave it one last pass with a wet trowel to knock off any marks left from the bull float and ensure a perfectly flat surface. This wasn't really necessary as it's only going to be a workshop, but it leaves a much nicer finish. And with that, the base of the workshop is complete. Thanks for watching, and if you want to follow the workshop build or any of our other ongoing projects, you can hit the subscribe button and the notification bell ready for the next one.